The discussion becomes then, when is Laylatul Qadr? Multiple opinions. You have the opinion of Imam bin Hazm rahimahullah ta'ala, who mentions it in the beginning of the first 10, so the 20th or the 21st. You have the opinion of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri and Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, the early opinion that mentions it as the 23rd night of Ramadan. You have an opinion of Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, that's the 24th or the 25th night of Ramadan. And then you have the opinion of Ubay ibn Ka'ab, the later opinion of Ibn Abbas, and many other scholars who say that it's the 27th night of Ramadan. And they have their evidences for that. And then you have other scholars who say that every year it changes to a different night, with it being more likely in the odd nights. Again, we have an article that goes through all of these opinions and how they were justified. And Imam an-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions in his commentary of the hadith of Sahih Muslim that this is the best way to harmonize the ahadith, is that it can change from year to year. That it could be on the 23rd one year, and then it could be on the 25th the next year, it could be the 27th the year after that. So it moves within the last 10 nights of Ramadan. That is the opinion of a great majority, or not a great majority, but of many of the scholars of Islam. And it's the one that allows us to strive most throughout the last 10 nights. There's a weak narration that if an odd night coincides with Laylatul Jum'ah, and I mention this because we hear it every year, with the night of Friday, which would technically be Thursday night, then that's more likely to be Laylatul Qadr. Imam bin Rajab rahimahullah mentions this in Lata'if al-Ma'arif, but there isn't a solid proof of this. So could it be that because the night of Friday, which is a blessed night, if it coincides with an odd night of Ramadan, that it's that? Allahu Alam. It could indeed be that there's a greater likelihood, but still, are you going to miss out on the other nights as a result of it? Imam al-Razi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says that Allah did not tell you when Laylatul Qadr is, or it was not conveyed to us through the Prophet ﷺ, because he didn't want people to fall into sin. Because if you knew what exact night it was and you missed it, then think about how sinful you would be. Like if you knew it was one night of the year and you still didn't worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on that night, then think about how sinful you would be. Now there is this narration where Abu Salama radiallahu ta'ala anhu says that I went to Abu Sa'id radiallahu ta'ala anhu and I said, will you not go out and take a walk with us in the garden so that we can talk to you? So he came out and I asked him, what have you heard from the Prophet ﷺ about Laylatul Qadr? And he said that the Prophet ﷺ made i'tikaf for the first 10 nights of Ramadan. This is really interesting. And then Jibreel alayhi salam came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said to the Prophet ﷺ, Inna ladhi tatlubu amamak, that which you are seeking is still ahead of you. So the Prophet ﷺ stood up on the 10th and he said ﷺ that Jibreel alayhi salam came to me and he told me that which is or sought is still ahead of you. So we stayed with the Prophet ﷺ for another 10. And then on the 20th, Jibreel alayhi salam came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said to him again, Inna ladhi tatlubu amamak, that verily that which you seek is still ahead of you. So the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that on the 20th of Ramadan, he said, whoever was doing i'tikaf with the Prophet ﷺ, come back to the masjid. And he says, فَإِنِّي أُرِيتُ لَيْلَةَ الْقَدْرِ, he said, I saw Laylatul Qadr, وَإِنِّي نُسِيتُهَا, I was caused to forget the exact night. And he said ﷺ that it is fil ashr al-awakhir, it is from the last 10. And he said وَفِي وِتْرٍ, and it is one of the odd of the last 10. And he said ﷺ وَإِنِّي رَأَيْتُ كَأَنِّي أَسْجُدُ فِي طِينٍ وَمَاءٍ, I see myself as if I'm making sujood in mud and in water. So basically that whatever that night's going to be in the last 10, I saw a vision of what it looks like, a dream, that I'm making sujood in mud and in water. And it was that year that on the 23rd night, there was rain, and it was a beautiful rain. Abu Sa'id radiallahu anhu says there was no trace of clouds in the sky. And so he said, suddenly a cloud came out and it rained over us, and the prayer was established, and the Prophet ﷺ prostrated in mud and water, and you could see it on his nose and his forehead, and that was the 23rd night. Now, there are far more narrations that indicate the 27th in particular, and this is a great group of the ulama who believed in the 27th night, holding particular significance. And this starts with Ubay ibn Ka'ab radiallahu ta'ala anhu, who is one of the imams of the Sahaba of the Quran. He is the one who was leading Salatul Taraweeh, that Umar radiallahu anhu gathered the people behind in Salah for Salatul Taraweeh. So imagine when this man swears radiallahu ta'ala anhu that Laylatul Qadr is on the 27th night. And it was said to him, your brother Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu ta'ala anhu says that whoever stands for the night prayer throughout the year would catch Laylatul Qadr. And he said, rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy on him, he said that because he didn't want people to just rely on their worship for one night. Basically, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud was saying, if you want to catch Laylatul Qadr, worship Allah every night of the year. But he's saying that he knew that it was on the 27th night, and he took an oath. He swore by Allah that it was the 27th night. And I said to him, Ya Aba Mundhir, who's Ubay ibn Ka'ab, on what basis do you say that? And he said, by the sign in which the Prophet ﷺ gave us, that it is on the day that the sun would rise without having any ray in it. Now, of the signs of Laylatul Qadr, if you took all of the narrations, it is a night that is samha, a night that is tranquil, a night in which the weather is calm, and that the sun rises and it does not have rays coming out of it. This is a distinctive sign that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned of that. And so in one narration, the sun rises the next day like a brass dish. It has no rays until it has risen to its highest point, and that's an authentic narration.